O situaciji u Hypo razgovaramo i sa direktorom Hypo Alpe Adria banke u Bosni i Hercegovini, gospodinom Aleksandrom Pikerom. Welcome to Al Jazeera Business.
Hello.
Mr. Piker, what was the biggest mistake of Hypo Alpe Adria Bank and finally it ended up in this situation?
Well, you know, there are so many reasons why something doesn't work, so it is difficult to say what is the biggest mistake. Nevertheless, I do think that a very quick expansion in banking, which is a conservative business, is never a good idea. So the growth was too quick. If you have too big growth, you make mistakes, and in our case, there too was some criminal activity, particularly in the Balkans.
You just mentioned the criminal activity. I mean, Hypo Alpe Adria Bank is not an exception. Two of your Austrian presidents are now in jail, if I'm not mistaken. Former Prime Minister of Croatia is also charged with the Hypo scandals. And even in Bosnia, one of your former presidents is also charged.
Yes.
What is the problem? What happened?
Well, you know, in earlier times it was easy. If you had a good position, you could do things for yourself and for the company. So I'm very happy that this changed. Now it is important that you do clean business and you are not allowed anymore to steal a little bit for yourself.
Hypo banks from the Balkans region, will they be sold as a package or separately?
That's the plan. We want to sell it as a package. We want to sell it because we do see that there's value in it. Because if you look at every country, you have a very good position of the bank. You have customers, you have a network, you have branches. So all this together is quite a preeminent position in the Balkans and a good positions. But the market will show.
Do you know who are maybe the potential investors, the buyers?
I have to tell you, I don't know. I'm prepared for everything. We are doing preparations for the sales process and we are prepared for everything.
How much do you plan to get for these 6 banks? Because they are worth, let's say, 1.5 billion altogether. How much can you get for them?
Well, this is too a question on the market. You cannot really say how much this should be. You can say you should get a fair value, because this will be what the Austrian taxpayer doesn't have to pay for. So I do think that there basically a good value can be reached, because all the banks do have intrinsic value. They have problems, true. That's why we are here. We are working on the problems. We are cleaning it up, but still the value is there. Just for example, we do have in Bosnia and Herzegovina more than 400,000 customers.
One of the figures that are operating in the media is that for these 6 banks you can get maybe 100 million euros. I mean, this is pretty low.
You know, I wouldn't go into speculations. Let the market decide.
What about the bad loans? I mean, this is the huge problem of Hypo Alpe Adria Group as a whole. What is going to happen with all these bad loans?
Well, the bad loans, I would say, it's the problems of all the banks which we are having here in the Balkans now. If you just look at Slovenia, you have more and more banks failing. When I was in Slovenia, still I was wondering why all the notion is on Hypo and all the problem is with Hypo. And now you see it's not only Hypo. The bad loans is something which has to be strategically and generally approached. Now, coming back to Hypo. In Hypo, with the bad loans, we did several actions already. Number one was that we took out the bad loans into a wind-down company, which will work exclusively with the bad loans to kind of clean the banks. This was done in almost all the countries, and we have done that here too in Bosnia and Herzegovina. And of course, the new buyer will not be burdened with the bad loans. The new buyer will get a good bank and will get, of course, a bank which still needs to work on the market here. And there will be bad loans. I mean, that's the normal course of business in the bank. This is why we have now better risk procedures. We are much more cautious and we are looking very closely what we are doing in banking, as it should have been done earlier, of course. The bad loans, well, what do you do in such a situation? Let's take an enterprise who took a loan, cannot repay because macroeconomically and microeconomically didn't work out. So we take the collateral, we sell the collateral, we try to get the best price for the collateral, and then of course there's a certain loss, and this loss has to be borne by the bank if it's in the bank. In the wind down company, at the end of the day, this loss, if it's not fully provisioned, as we do think it is, will have to be borne by the final owner, which is the Republic of Austria, or me, if you want so, because I'm an Austrian taxpayer, and I'm to be HI taxpayer.
Well, you mentioned it, you're an Austrian taxpayer. How do you look at this, that Austrian taxpayers are paying for the Hypo Bank?
This is history, so you cannot go back, unfortunately. Am I happy about it? No. Was it a necessity to nationalize the bank? Unfortunately, it was. There were big guarantees by the country of Carinthia, as it was mentioned to by the European Commission. And yeah, you took an obligation, and the obligation has to be honored. I mean, the obligation was taken several years ago.
Do you have some figures how much you are losing because of all this situation, because of the restrictions, because of the uncertainty that is around the Hypo Bank? And what do your clients say? Do they come? Do they leave from the bank?
From the client side, fortunately, we're very lucky. I mean, they are coming, they are leaving the deposits, and the deposits are secure. We are over liquid, which is very good. But we still have to send customers away who want loans, because we say, no, sorry, earlier we did this kind of business. Now we are not in a position to do that.
So you're not giving loans anymore?
We are giving loans, of course, but not at this high rate as we did it before, and not more risky business as we did it before.
So what can you say to the people of the Balkan regions? Is their money safe in Hypo banks?
Well, you have to look at our owner for the time being, and you have to look at the liquidity. We are regulated by the agency here. They are not extremely happy with us because we are not the best bank in the country, but we are safe. Otherwise, they would have to react, and they do not react for the time being. We are in very good relationships with them, constantly talking to them. We are very liquid, which is good for the depositor, because whoever comes, we have the money immediately. Alone in the Federation, we have about 400 million km at the central bank, ready for any time. So it is bad for us because we're not earning money on that, but for the depositor, it is no problem, I would say.
Thank you very much for this interview.